Hi friends, I'm Lady Lecter and welcome back to my channel. It's time, as always, to get a cup of tea or in fact your beverage of choice, perhaps even some snacks, snackadoos, and I'm going to answer your burning questions. So, this week I put a request for questions on my Instagram. If you're not following me over on Instagram, it's at I am Lady Lecter. I'm always posting on the daily in the stories over there, so it's lovely to chat with you guys over there. I put a request out for some questions to answer for you, what you were interested in knowing about me, and I got quite a few responses. So today we're going to answer those questions. Got them all here on my iPad, so I'm going to look through those questions and answer them for you now, okay? I'm not going to mention by name the individuals that asked me the questions because I don't want to butcher your Instagram handles. So I'm just gonna read the question and then I'm gonna answer it. But thank you so much, everybody who asked a question. I really appreciate your involvement in this. But I just don't want to butcher everybody's name by trying to pronounce something that I can't. So the first question is, if you could give your 15-year-old self a piece of advice, what would you say? This is quite a good question, isn't it? I like that. So I would say to my 15-year-old self, if somebody says to you, you can't do this, that's coming from a place where they feel like they can't do that. I think it's really important in life when we're talking to each other to be careful of the language that we use. When people say you can't do such and such, that's coming from a place where they feel like they can't do that. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. That's what I'd say to my 15-year-old self. So the next question is my favourite book or author. Okay, my favourite book is Creed by James Herbert. I really love James Herbert books. He's a horror writer. And this was the first James Herbert book I ever read. This is the third copy I've had of this book. It might be the fourth copy. Because I have a tendency to be like, oh, you're going to really love this book. And then I just give it to people. And then I've got to buy another copy. So I think this is like the third or fourth copy of this book I've ever had. Because I just keep going, oh, you're going to love this book. And then I just give it to people. So that's my favourite book, and I just love James Herbert. His storytelling is so amazing. This is a great book. Like I said, this was the first James Herbert book I ever read, and it's a brilliant story. Okay, so the next question. What is a song you can never resist getting up to and shaking your moneymaker to? So when I'm in the club and the song comes on, I would say it is Big Hollow Man by Danielle Dax. That is the one song I just can't. Even if I've just got in the club and I haven't even took my coat off yet, I'm like, oh my God, I've got to get on the dance floor right now. Danielle Dax, Big Hollow Man comes on and I'm just like, oh my life, I just need to get on the dance floor. So yeah, that would be the song that just instantly gets me to where I want to be on the dance floor. Next question. Do you have a favourite animal or insect? Obviously I love cats, we know that, but I love all animals. Like, I just really love animals. So like, it'd be cats or dogs. I really love rats. I really love spiders. I just really love animals. I think nature's kind of amazing. I mean, when you look around and you just see nature doing its thing, I'm like, that's so cool. And there's so many animals that I love. I just couldn't even list them all right now. But I suppose if I had to choose an ultimate favourite, it would be some kind of big cat like a lion or a tiger. I went to, where was I? Was it a zoo last year? I can't remember which zoo it was, but there's like a sort of like see-through tunnel, and we went into this see-through tunnel, and there was a tiger. It was not a tiger. Was it a tiger or a lion? I think it was a tiger, and he was like literally staring at me. He was like, we made eye contact and everything. I was like, if this glass tunnel wasn't here, obviously I'd be breakfast. But I was enamoured by it. I was just like, oh my God. And he walked over the tunnel, and I just looked up, and his like paws were like right there. And then he went over to the other side of the tunnel, looked at me again, and walked all the way over again. And I'm like, oh, it was literally the best thing I've ever seen in my whole life. If I could just capture that moment in my brain forever, I'd be so happy. To be that close to him, it was beautiful. So the next question. Who is your favourite work colleague? Asking for a friend. I think we know the answer to that one. The next question we have is, if you had to live in another time period, which would you choose and why? I think I would... It's one of those really peculiar questions, because it's like, yeah, I'd really like to have lived in the Victorian times, you know, when like, you know, weird things were happening, and it was a really great time for sort of everything. But also, by the same token, I need a shower and some central heating. So like, I'd really like to say sort of like Victorian times. I'd like to have lived in Victorian London or something like that. But by the same token, girl needs a hot shower and some central heating in her life. So it's a bit of a... Okay, the next question is, what book has impacted you the most? I'm going to cut this into two pieces. So I'm going to cut it into sort of non-fiction and fiction, okay? So the book that's non-fiction that impacted my life the most is this one. So this is Instant Confidence by Paul McKenna, and it deals with NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And I've had this book for years, but over the past sort of 4 years, I've kind of read it maybe 6 times. It's one of those books that I can always go back to, and it's a really easy read. As you can see, it's not very big. It's a really easy read, and it's got like a little CD with it that you can listen to as well. And I just think it's a really good book for helping you if you're in a little bit of a stuck time, or you need to sort of think about things from a different perspective. It's a brilliant book. Like I say, I've had it for a long time, and over the past 4 years, I must have reread it about 6 or 7 times easily. You can see how battered it is because it spends a lot of time in my work bag, because I take it to work and read it in my lunch break. So that's the non-fiction. The fiction book that has had the most impact on my life, you will not be surprised, is Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. I think, because like obviously I was talking about with the Paul McKenna book, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, I think both Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon deal with that sort of, you know, creating yourself and, you know, becoming who you want to be. I know that obviously this is a horror story book, so we're not looking at, you know, it from that perspective, but I think from an NLP stance, then horror films really can teach you a lot about what you could actually achieve or deal with. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can see people in horror movies who are not the traditional hero or heroine sort of person, but they turn it up and they're like, wow, you are the hero of this movie, and you didn't even know how to make a cup of tea before it, or you never thought that you'd be in that position. Like Ripley, for example. I mean, she wasn't a soldier. She wasn't, out of the Alien franchise, if you're not familiar, she wasn't a soldier. She was, you know, she wasn't set up for that sort of thing, but she's the sole survivor, and she keeps on surviving, and she does better than the soldiers. And I think that that's a really interesting theme in horror movies, that you can actually achieve anything that you want to. It's just the mindset that you have. So yeah, the non-fiction book that's had the most impact on my life, I would say, was Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. Again, you won't be surprised. Let's have a look at the next question. The next question is, what is your favourite joke? Now, I am terrible at retaining jokes. I just can't retain jokes at all. I just don't retain any jokes. I can't. Like, I hear a joke, I laugh, and then it disappears out of my brain. Anybody else get that? Leave me a comment in the description. I just, like, literally cannot retain jokes at all. Okay. The next question we have is, what is your favourite junk food or snack? My favourite junk food is, let's think. My favourite junk food is white chocolate chip cookies. I just really love white chocolate chip cookies with a cup of coffee or tea, do you know what I mean? That's literally everything. I really like, if I'm talking about like junk food, like a meal, I'm really kind of partial to a Chinese. So that's that for you. Next question is, what do you prefer, bitter, mild or lager? Now, I don't really drink bitter, mild or lager as my choice. I'm like, I'd rather have vodka or brandy. However, if I had to choose one of those three, I'd go for bitter. If like there was no option for anything else, I'd go for a pint of bitter. Next question up. How did you get into witchcraft? Okay. This is quite a large question, shall we say. So, I first got exposed to witchcraft when I was younger because my mum was practicing Wicca. So there was a lot of Wicca books in our house, and obviously my mum was practicing. She doesn't practice anymore. So yeah, I first became exposed to Wicca at that point. And I read a lot about it because it was really interesting to me. I like to do a deep dive when I'm interested in something. So I went into this deep dive moment and sort of like read everything I could. I do not practice Wicca myself. It was something that like was sort of a gateway for me, if you like. In the 90s, when we're talking about in the 90s, there was a lot of Wicca books and things like this floating around where you got really easy access to this information, and obviously there was like this bookshelf at home that I got all this information on it. I could just like, you know, read these books. So that sort of was my like sort of gateway into it, if you like. But like I say, I don't practice Wicca myself. I'm not a Wiccan, but that was my sort of entry into the world of witchcraft. Did I answer that properly for you? The next couple of questions are also related to witchcraft. So, do you recommend any books on magic? I don't like to recommend books about magic because it depends on what path you're on. For example, I couldn't recommend you any books about Wicca because I don't follow that path. And like magic in general, it's such a personal practice to you that I wouldn't like to recommend books for you to read, because that's sort of me saying this is a book that you should read, understand and know, and that's going to help you on your path. And it might not help you on your path. It depends what your path is. So there is this one book that I really like, that's more general rather than specific, and it's just it's called Everyday Witchcraft by Deborah Blake, and it's just a really nice book. I mean, you can see it's quite thick, but it's literally 1 page per day of like ways to bring magic into your daily life, because a lot of people think that magic is only for the full moon, only for the new moon, only for the Sabbaths, only for this, only for that. Whereas I'm very much a person that believes that magic is in your everyday life. And I just think this is a really nice book for that. because it just sort of brings in, I mean, I don't use it like every day, but I think it's a really nice focus point. If you're trying to bring magic into your life every day, it's a really nice focus point. So you've just got one page per day that talks about, like, you know, and it's really easy things as well. Nothing that needs lots of, you know, don't need to purchase lots of things to do the little activities that are in this book. And I just think it's really cute. It's a really nice book. It's a really easy read, and it's just a nice way to bring magic into your life every day. Next question. Any tips for beginner witches? Okay, I've got loads of tips for beginner witches. I'm actually going to be making a series, so once a month we're going to talk about witchcraft and witchy things. Once a month we're going to be doing that in a new series that I'll be doing. So we'll be talking about lots of tips there. However, if I had one tip to give a beginner witch at the moment, like in their journey, I'd just say your journey is personal to you. So what one person does isn't going to be the same as what you do. What I do won't be the same as what you do. It's such a personal process, and don't feel put off by people saying you've got to have this product and this product and this product. If I could give one sort of example, would be a white candle can be used in replacement of all coloured candles when you're doing candle magic. A clear quartz can be used in replacement for all colours of crystals when you're doing crystal magic. So you don't have to have all the things straight away in order to be practicing and on your path to the craft. Okay, the next question is, who are your biggest inspirations? This is quite a broad question, and it's quite a big question as well, because it really depends on where I am in life and, you know, what's going on around me and what I'm trying to achieve. Inspiration comes from so many different places. Like, I can be inspired by going for a walk in nature, and which is not a person, it's just a place that I go. Or I can be really inspired by people that are around me that are achieving great things. I think in the inspiration is such a broad question that I couldn't really say like a couple of names, because there's so many people that have inspired me in my life. I've been really lucky to know some really truly inspirational people, but they touch you and you feel inspired by them, and in that moment in time you feel that connection. Do you know what I mean? But my biggest inspirations on the daily change so much that I couldn't list. Here's a list of my inspirations. Do you know what I mean? Next question. How can you use magic in your everyday practice? Okay, so if you want to use magic in your everyday practice, which is what I do, like I just said a couple of minutes ago, so books like this are really cool because they give you inspiration for, you know, bringing magic into your daily life. I really like to start my day with a cup of tea. And in that cup of tea, I will put my intention for the day. I might do a video about that, about how we sort of set our intention for the day with tea. That might be a really cool video. But yeah, you can just, anything is magic. Anything is beautiful, including Lady Moo. How you doing? You come to share your magic. So yeah, I'm definitely, you know, a person that likes to bring the small mundane things we do in life into a magical arena, so to speak. Like I say, starting your day with a cup of tea that you have put your intention into is a perfect example of that. And I think I'll do a video about that so we can go into it a little bit more depth. Is that okay? The last question we have is, do you have any ghost stories? Now, I know quite a lot of ghost stories. My granddad used to tell such good ghost stories when I was a kid. He used to scare us so much. But he's such a good storyteller, my granddad. He's really good at telling a story, and he's really good at making that story believable. So I might do a separate video on that and give you some, give you some ghost stories, because I think that might be quite fun. What do you think? If you would like to see a video of ghost stories, perhaps leave me a comment in the comments box below, and perhaps we can do a ghost story video one day, because I really love ghost stories, and especially if they're sort of like real life ghost stories, or any ghost stories really. I like those that, like sitting around a campfire on Halloween and telling each other spooky stories. I really love that sort of thing. So yes, maybe we'll do a separate video on that. That would be a really cool idea. What do you think? So that's me answering your questions today, with the help of Lady Moo, of course, as always. My other cat, I do have 2 cats, but you never see the other one because he's out having an adventure, living his life in the snow. So yeah, those are your questions answered. I hope you enjoyed getting to know me a little better, and that's us for this week. We shall see you very soon. Bye. Come on, monkey.